thank you for that introduction and welcome to this panel. I'm delighted to be able to have the chance to chat in front of you effectively with two CEOs who are challenging and changing the sectors that they work in. What they're doing is extraordinary, and I'm hoping that some of the fire that they feel and that they live day to day will just rub off on you, whether you are a business leader, a student, or kind of whatever your capacity is here today. Aaron, first of all, Aaron Holland, who's democratizing the season ticket system. This is a model that has long been in need of being challenged. And with the debut of his app, Season Share, he's doing just that. He'll talk to you a little bit more about what that involves, what it's all about, but in short, it's an app that's allowing fans and friends to split and share season tickets. Nathan Huber, who's the visionary behind 3D Live, which is equally turning the tables on the world of live entertainment, whether that's esports, whether that's concerts, live events. He is providing audiences with extraordinary, immersive, 3D holographic experiences. So very, very kind of out there in terms of the world that he's in. Guys, thank you for coming. Just to add a little kind of insight into who I am and potentially what I bring to the mix. My name's Louise Chater. For many years, I've been involved in the market research side of things and the strategy side of things, both setting up and running my own agencies, but then also working client side at the studios. And I'm currently at Sony working as the project lead on a System 1 tool that is measuring how audiences engage with movies in real time. It's taking a system that has been broken for some time and turning it on its head. The world of testing films when they're in post-production has barely changed for 40 years. And what I'm trying to do is to build out a system that allows us to engage with audiences and to really understand how they respond emotionally to what they're watching, because I see emotion as being the key connector between audiences and movies, and the thing that perhaps will keep audiences in movie theaters over the next 5-10 years. Talking of connecting, Aaron, let me turn to you first. Can you talk to us a little bit about your motivation behind the app, and just sort of what's taken you on the path to where you are, because you've just launched, haven't you?
Yeah. First and foremost, thanks so much for having me, Louise, Jay, UCLA, Anderson. Really excited to be here. This is an array of topics that I know Nate and I are very passionate about. It'll be really fun to talk and dive into some of this stuff today. So some background on me: I'm a serial entrepreneur, startup mentor. I've really worked in startups my entire professional life. I'm actually a third-generation entrepreneur. My grandpa got back from the war, started an architecture firm. My dad, all four of our uncles, they own their own businesses. So entrepreneurship is definitely in our blood. So I graduated from the University of Utah with a degree in sports management, where I met my co-founder, John Rappaport. 3 or 4 years later, we moved out to Los Angeles. We were splitting and sharing season tickets to the Clippers at the time. And we lost a share partner. So a share partner, and the way season tickets work is there's usually one person on the account. The team knows one person on the account, sometimes two. But there's an array of share partners that share and split that season ticket. Up to 70% of season tickets are shared with someone else. So we lost a share partner on that Clippers account. And the Clippers lost our entire block of seats. They lost a client. So John and I sat down and started to think about, why isn't there a better way for us to source share partners, split up the ticket? Why isn't there a way to provide personalization, customization to the consumer? Why isn't there a way to deliver this in a fan-first, mobile-friendly environment on the handheld? And from that point, this is about 3 years ago, we started to kind of circle a team, bringing Robert, other co-founders into this idea. So we officially launched and started the idea about 2 years ago, unveiled the idea at South by Southwest, immediately got connected with the 49ers, And happy again to announce that we just launched with the 49ers this last week. We're up, we're live, we're selling season tickets. It's really cool to see something you've worked on for 2 years out in the open and actually functioning. So yeah, it's kind of our background.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Nate, over to you.
So I stumbled into business with most things, and as I mentioned earlier, most things in my life I've kind of just fallen into. And I think that's sort of how I got into this space, was in the music space. I wanted to be in the film and television entertainment space, and kind of just didn't find that to be where I was feeling, like I was doing something, and found ourselves in this optical display development world where we were providing systems for concerts. And we found that, definitely at least over the last 10 years, 12, 13 years, the industries and the markets that embrace this metaverse of social media, internet-based things, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, Amazon, they've all been growing. And in the entertainment space, the attendance for industries like, say, for instance, music, concerts, they've all been on the rise. And the social engagement, streaming services have all been on the rise. Same for theme parks. Attendance is all on the rise. And out of that, location-based entertainment on the rise. These are all industries that are, really embracing this metaverse revolution, the metalution, or whatever. And so what we provide is a technology that can, help differentiate these industries that are having massive attendance. So in concert space, everything's always bigger and brighter and louder. Coachella gets huger and huger and huger. Insomniac, they do these electronic music festivals, and they're just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And so we provide a service where we have a technology that basically mimics that of virtual reality and augmented reality, where you can have a concert and have performers surrounded by these augmented reality-like experiences without them having to wear a augmented reality headset, like basically a computer on your head. Instead, the whole audience will just be wearing clear glasses like this, and for instance, we're doing a concert tour right now with Flying Lotus, and so he'll be on stage performing, and the world's just flying around him. There's particles, there's all kinds of crazy art and whatnot. So that's very engaging, and it's a differentiator between other performers. And the same happens for theme parks. They're getting more attendance, so they need better attractions, so we provide our displays for that. LBE, like Meow Wolf, for instance, embrace social media in a massive way, and they've been growing very, very fast. And so all these groups, they're looking for interesting text and display technologies and things that can help really enhance the experience, so people are using that social media to talk about it and to spread more awareness of what it is they're doing. So we provide that service with our technology.
Both of you are, you're successful, you're poised for success. It's very easy to forget, in terms of the journey you've been on, what risk either has looked like or still currently looks like. Do you mind having a candid conversation with us about risk for both of you?
Oh, well, absolutely. Just coming from the startup space, risk has just been so prevalent and omnipresent in my career. And, seeing and dealing with other co-founders on other projects, I know that I'm a lot less risk adverse than other people. And that's probably what's kept me in startups for as long as I have been, all the ups, all the downs. It's tough. So it's especially difficult in the sports space, because risk in the sports space is different than risk in the tech space. So you live and breathe in the sports space. It's all just a game of margins, right? And it's really hard for teams to make a bet, whether it be large or small, on any new technology. So we're selling into an environment that's, risk adverse, to say the least. And that in turn creates risk on our company. We need to make sure that we're positioning the value proposition in a way to a team where they can see, that we don't want to completely change the world. We want to just find an isolated use case in that team, that organization, and help them with a small step forward. And that would be, some feedback that I would give to any startup company trying to sell into the sports space, just learning from our experience is, there's so much risk involved in running a sports organization right now that if you come into a sports team and say, hey, we're going to come in, we're going to change the world, we're going to do everything, there's going to be pushback and resistance to that. But if you come in and say, look, let's work with you, let's find an isolated use case, let's work together to create a product and experience through tools, services, technology that can actually solve a real consumer need, start there and then expand. That's the only way to make it work with sports and technology businesses, especially when you're selling into an environment that's, it's tough. It really is tough. So yeah, I mean, that creates downward risk on our business that we've had to be agile and really equate for and learn on the fly. And that's definitely, advice I would give anyone working in the sports tech space.
In terms of pickup with the 49ers, who or which element of their business was the one that kind of grabbed hold of this?
Yeah, so it was definitely the 49ers it's an amazing organization. I think, a lot of sports organizations are amazing in that they can, align interdepartmentally around an idea and a concept and kind of get everyone working. What's unique about the 49ers is they are, innovation is such a cultural pillar of their organization. They're in Silicon Valley. They are, out front on tech. And we went there first on purpose because we know that other teams look to the 49ers. But that's not to say that there's not teams in Los Angeles or all over the country that aren't leading on tech. One of the big things in sports, another key takeaway for people is what works in San Francisco is not going to work in LA. And even we're looking and thinking in LA, like what works for LAFC is not going to work for UCLA. What works for UCLA is not going to work for the Dodgers. The demand environment in each one of these markets and then each one of the teams within these markets is so diverse and so different that you really have to equate for that if you're trying to provide, again, tools, technology, and service that solves a real problem for these teams. But at the end of the day, I think, and this plays into Nate's technology and mine, is that technology in sports is no longer a novelty. It's a true necessity. And it's becoming more and more apparent that technology really is, again, it's a necessity. And it's a differentiator for these teams, whether it be 3D imaging technology, whether it be services like ours that make the season ticket more affordable and accessible. We're in this time and space where the consumer has changed forever. And sports, there's different teams that are understanding that faster than others.
There was a really interesting article today by Jen Booton in Sport Techie that I remember sharing with us earlier on to that point, and it really seemed to hit a nerve with us in terms of what we're talking about, this idea that tech is very much now at the heart of what's happening. But actually, one of the things that really struck me with that article was the fact that tech is the thing that also unlocks the personalized experience. You can't do it any other way now. It's the shortcut, it's the easiest way in. And I think for fans as well, for them to recognize that these companies are at the forefront of tech thinking and enterprise and innovation means that they at least know that they are trying their hardest to create that personal experience for them as fans that will add value, add meaning, and be part of their journey with their teams and their adoption of sport in kind of every which way in their lives. Nate, on the risk side for you, you're having to answer to a different set of managers, if you like. Can you talk about what risk looks, how much of it is company specific for you or is shared with the clients that you're serving?
Right. Well, I guess, it depends. Like we were talking earlier about the different verticals we address, whether it be our involvement in trying to help the e-sporting world or working in the music world or the theme park world, and how they're all kind of different animals. And when you're in the music world, you're dealing with the artists, who don't want to spend any money but also want to have the coolest show in the world, and that means they're going to be more involved in tech and want to be more involved with their fans that are buying tickets through social media, through all these other different forms of technology. So I would say sometimes there's some fear there associated with trying something new because it's always kind of like when you have a board of trustees, you don't really want to, or whatever, any kind of, if you're answering to a group of people, they don't want to take a lot of risk. But if you find like a unique artist who's very creative, he'll be like, let's do it. Let's dig into the piggy banks and let's make something that no one's ever seen before. And I don't care if I lose money because I'm an EDM star and I make hundreds of millions of dollars pushing a button. So there's that, and then there's a theme park that really is just run like a really well-oiled machine. They have, we're going to put this much into this attraction this year, or this park, we're going to put this much into this. So they're very much risk averse. They know their machine. They're not going to mess with it. It's always they're always growing. If you look at their statistics of attendance, they're just constantly pumping. Then there's groups like Meow Wolf, which are location-based, right? And most people here probably have heard of Meow Wolf, I imagine, right? Nobody? Okay, well, maybe you have, maybe you haven't. I can tell you everywhere
Give us a quick synopsis. Go on, give us a quick synopsis.
So Meow Wolf is a completely IP-free, basically mini theme park that was created and was funded by the creator of Game of Thrones. And it was all based out of a punk music scene art group in Santa Fe, New Mexico. They were building these amazing experiences for people to go to concerts and warehouses and play around with things, right? And all of a sudden, they realized they were just getting more and more people that were coming to these things. And next thing you know, fast forward a couple of years, they got some investment, they've built this place, and they're doing 500,000 people a year. And now they're opening a facility in Vegas. They've raised a hell of a lot of money. They're going into Denver, they're going into DC, they now have their music festival coming up. They're exploding. And it's all IP free. It's organic with artists that are working with technology. It's like going into a mushroom trip without taking mushrooms. It's hard to explain how awesome this experience is for all ages, and it's killing it. But they're new, so they've got a lot of investors they got to answer to now, and as they try and scale out their model, they've got to be successful in their next location. So there's probably a lot more fear about taking risks, but also at the same time they have to keep growing. So I would say that's the different kinds of risk. And for us, being a startup, every day's risk. I'm a single guy. I don't have any kids, so I don't mind putting my future at risk. I'm having fun with it. It's tech. It's fun.
I was going to ask that slightly differently and say, as innovators, do you think you have a different relationship with risk than other people who are not innovators?
Oh, well, it's been proven to me that I definitely do. Very much so. I mean, that's been apparent most recently on this project, Season Share. It's just like, but that's not unique. Like, to get any idea off the ground, whether you're selling into sports, selling into a theme park, or that type of environment, live music, you do have to be able to stand up, look risk right in the eye, and try to advance an idea and a premise and, a concept. Luckily for us, and our timing right now is really good. Just like speaking to that article, sports organizations are learning now that they don't have a choice but to start not taking risks so much, but seeing the risk as opportunity. And that's really interesting, especially in, we live in a world where the average season ticket holder is 55 years old. If your average moviegoer was 55 years old, theaters, studios would be losing their minds. So this, yes, it is a risk for sports organizations, but it's also an opportunity to look at it through a different lens and say, look, if season tickets drive anywhere from 50 to 80% of our gate revenue annually, and our average consumer's age is 55 years old, organizationally, from a league level to a team level, all the way down to the departmental level, what can we do to address this? And again, I think our timing is good, but there's no way in any startup to remove yourself from risk. Yeah. And if there was, there'd probably be more people doing it. But it is tough, absolutely.
Yeah. Nate, apart from your marital status, your relationship with risk?
Well, I used to have a full head of hair, but I was in the punk music scene for a while, and so I'm kind of familiar with being scrappy. And when we built our first theme park attraction, like I was up in the rafters bleeding, putting my life at risk for the company. And I don't recommend that for many people, but it's an exciting time that we're in this this metaverse revolution, right? There's huge growth, huge expansion, and that's a double-edged sword, right? I mean, we all know how bad social media can be as well as good. I think for me, it's not a big deal. I can see, we're all able to see, we've had 12 to 14 years now of research that we can see. 5 years ago when we were talking on panels about the future of tech, it was all speculation, and now we're really looking at charts and we're seeing numbers, and we can see what was right, what was wrong, and so it's getting less stressful. I would say there's less risk. Esports are huge. I mean, you're talking about the demographics of baseball and whatever, football and basketball, but man, millennials, none of them are, I mean, not none of them, I don't mean anything like that, but there's a huge percentage that are on Twitch and they're watching video games instead of watching baseball. There's crazy numbers, and it's all being driven through this metaverse revolution of social media like Twitch, where you're having 15 million viewers a day, 365 days out of the year, and you're getting 1 million viewers a day in baseball, or on average. It's pretty nuts, right? When you count finals and Super Bowl and stuff like that, the NFL, they get on average 15 million viewers per game. They play like 16 games, not 365 games. So people who are, taking advantage and saying, hey, yeah, there's something here with this. I think with your involvement in companies like yours that are saying, hey, let's start pulling into tech to get people more excited about what we're doing, I think those numbers are going to continue to climb, and risk will go down.
When you look at esports, I guess, backing into that, there's a model for traditional sports teams to look at now, whether it be Amazon, whether it be Netflix, and then to the younger consumer, whether it be Twitch or esports in general. Today, esports is valued at, I think it'll break $1 billion this year. The season ticket market's $10 billion annually. So there's still a lot of room to grow. But what sports teams can do is they can look at esports, look at the consumption behavior, and then make educated guesses, smart bets at how younger consumers will adopt technology. And they will adopt technology if you put it, if you give the right presentation, the right product to the right consumer at the right time in the sales cycle. We're seeing this across the country, that new tech is being introduced into the ticketing space and the season ticketing space. And it's a really, really fun, interesting time to be in sports. Again, kind of refocusing, looking at risk more through the lens of opportunity.
Yeah.
And DraftKings, I was out of sports for a while because I was in the music world, and those don't always work that well. And DraftKings, that's a total tech thing. It's pulled me into football again. It's all these little things are pulling millennials into.
That article, back to the article, it's talking about the importance of personalization to the younger consumer. And, speaking to millennials and their aversion to getting out of the home, that's a risk Nate and I both have to look at. And so the in-home experience is just getting so much better every year. These people are so good at making that content accessible to a younger demo that it's harder and harder to get out of the home. But yeah, I mean, when you look at millennials, we know that they respond to price point, they respond to customization, and they respond to a limited amount of fees. So they're used to this consumer behavior, but sports are still, I would say, struggling a bit to adopt that into their consumption behavior, where a lot of the teams I talk to, you can't even buy season tickets online. Yeah. You have to talk to someone on the phone. Millennials don't talk to people on the phone. So in that situation then, and looking at those characteristics of that age group, how do you future-proof against them just sitting on the couch? I mean, that's a question I think probably everyone in this room is aligned behind. How do we answer that? But what's interesting to me is when you look at Netflix and them actually investing in getting their movies back in theaters, there's something there. There's something there that cannot be replicated. The shared experience that's shareable, that it's an experience you're not going to have again, Like this is, it's awesome, and it's there, and millennials are responding to it, and it's an opportunity for us collectively, whether it be Nate, whether it be us, whether it be the people coming out of business school, just aligning behind this of how do we actually compete with the rate of progression of the in-home experience.
Yeah.
That's something we all need to be thinking about.
Yeah. Nate, opportunities? Sorry, I cut you off. You're going to...
Well, I was just going to piggyback
Yeah.
on, because remember we were talking upstairs earlier, I was reading about the statistics over the past 14 years of the music industry. I know they're not quite exactly the same thing, but the music industry, 53% of Americans are going to concerts. They're leaving the couch and they're going to concerts. Didn't used to be like this. So out of the 53%, basically something like 78 or 72% of those people going to these concerts are going because they heard of the artist through social media. So they were on the couch, and then they were either on, who knows, Instagram, Facebook, whatever, and they got off the couch to go to the festivals. And so as the music industry started, the majority of the money was all record sales, right? And then over the last 14 years, it's now way more streaming than record sales, and at the same time, way more concerts than ever. Way more concert attendance, festival attendance, and it's been driven almost exactly with the introduction of technology, social media, internet-based information systems that, typically we'd think that, well, we're just going to listen and sit on the couch. But I think that kind of shows it's a double-edged sword.
Indeed. And social media, we were talking about earlier on as well, just seems to be the absolute key, doesn't it? It unlocks so much. People talk about it being the bane of our lives, and at the same time, it's also the biggest service for us all as well, in terms of the worlds that we're working in. So much pivots around that. Last question, because I know that we are heading out of time. What is emerging that you're excited by? What should we be keeping an eye open for, an ear open for?
Me first?
Nate, you go.
I think you should be looking out for our events, because those are really exciting. Esports is huge. We can't stop talking about esports everywhere we go. If you get a chance, go to the Blizzard Arena in Burbank to get a taste of what this is like. It's really exciting to watch the viewership and Marshmello played in front of 10 million people on Fortnite. 10 million people went to his concert over the internet through a video game. That's crazy. The wave, VR, right? Again, VR has a slow way to go. That's why we come in, where you're not strapping a big, heavy thing to your head. You're just wearing these, and you're at a concert, and you're seeing amazing stuff happen. So I think esports is exciting. Where concerts is going is great. Everything's getting more and more immersive. Tech is really becoming a big part of it. Even at the big esport arena show with League of Legends, they had an augmented reality dragon flying around the stadium in real time. These kind of tools are also being brought into other forms of sporting events and also concerts. So I see anything live, outdoors, or theme related. Those things are just growing, and more things are being pumped into it to make things just more and more stunning and exciting. So I'm all about live events for sure.
Aaron.
Yeah, we're really excited about what we think is going to be a forthcoming shift in sports, like this notion of the fluid fan, this notion of the connected fan, and how that's playing into sports consumption in the live environment. It creates a lot of, again, risk and opportunity. So we're excited to see how that plays out. I think, just based on the teams I deal with day in and day out, there's some of the smartest people I know in business are working at sports teams, especially from a branding perspective. The way they run their businesses, especially from a branding perspective, I think a lot of industry and business can learn from that. But, in terms of what we're excited about, it's an increased degree of personalization packaged down to the consumer, presenting that in a way that meets them where they are, gives them a fluid buying experience that really aligns with what they're getting outside of sports. That's really what we're excited about, and that's definitely what we're thinking about.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing the insights you have, and for just sharing some insights into your specific businesses as well. If I was to take away something, I think it's just this idea that when you're at the intersection of tech and business and entertainment, you've got to hold all three in balance, haven't you? You can't kind of weigh into one without the others, expect the others to follow. They're not going to just sort of willingly kind of come behind and fall in place. You've really got to work hard at keeping that together. And all of that needs to together translate into the consumer experience. And I think what you were just saying at the end there, Erin, as well, is, you've got to stay relevant. We're all fighting for our share of audiences, but actually getting audiences off the couch seems to me to be a real priority at the moment, to make sure that we are feeding them with content and with experiences that feel relevant, feel as if they are tailor-made for them. Even if they're one of 50,000 in a stadium, they still got to feel like it's almost been made for them quite specifically. But exciting times ahead. We're certainly not, it's not like this is a horrible brick wall we're looking at. I think it's a transparent wall, and we've just got to get over it. But there's a lot going on, and thank you very much for being the innovators you both are. Thank you.